I want to speak to Brendan Clarke-Smith now, who's Conservative MP for Bassett Law. He was one of the signatories of Dehenna Davison's letter to IPSA calling for a pay freeze for MPs. It has now been frozen. So you voted to not get paid more money, Brendan?
Well, I didn't vote on it. This is the thing, Andrew. We don't actually vote on our pay in that sense.
You supported a letter saying, don't pay me more. What's the matter with you?
I think politicians get a lot of stick, but, we are human beings as well, and we see what's going on around us. And we see the public sector, a lot of people having their pay frozen. People forget about the private sector. A lot of people lost their jobs, or in some cases, a 10-15% down. I think it would have been a huge mistake then to give MPs a pay rise. From a moral point of view, but also from a treasury point of view as well. We don't set the pay, it is set independently, but we just thought we maybe should give a bit of a nudge just to say what our opinion on it was.
Would you think there'd be a majority of MPs who would have declined that pay rise or done something with it? Because it would have looked horrible, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of MPs do give things to charity in those circumstances. But we said, we don't want to get to the stage where we're having to give the money away later and justify it. And it's an important step, I think. It shows that you understand the difficulties that people are going through. And we don't want to get into sort of this Dutch auction thing every year where we're in a competition to see who can have the lowest pay increase, because that, of course, is what led to the problems with expenses before. So no one begrudges anybody earning a decent salary, whatever job they're doing. But we just thought a pay rise for us when nobody else is getting one would be inappropriate, really.
I think that's absolutely spot on. Are you a red wall Tory?
I am, yeah. We try to call it the blue wall now. So it's...
Are you feeling a little vulnerable at the moment? The way the Brexit negotiations are going, the frustration at the way the pandemic is being dealt with from the top, the messaging, etc. How are you finding it? Are you coming under pressure?
It's difficult for everyone. I think a lot of people supported or were pleased about the extra support for businesses and so on, and the furloughing, but most people are fed up in the country. I think we just want to see an end to the pandemic. So I think wherever you're living in the UK, it's been a pretty difficult time. See, my area, we've been hit as hard as anybody else has. Brexit, it's the finishing line is in sight, as we say, whether we get a deal or not with that. So I think on the horizon, I think people are quite positive. But as you can imagine, at the moment, it's Christmas, the pubs are all shut, and as I say, people are just a little bit fed up generally, Andrew.
I think there's a huge amount of anxiety and a great deal of depression, be it clinical or not, around at the moment. Did Bassett Law vote to leave the European Union?
We did. Nearly 70% of people voted to leave. So I think it's one of those things. People want to be positive, and one of my big things, and it's the first anniversary of being elected today as well, is about talking areas up. And I think that people feel as though they've been left behind, and the PM talks a lot about levelling up and so on. And we view leaving the EU as a way of doing that. And that's why, whatever happens, whether we get that deal with the EU or not, I'm sure that we've got some sort of plan to go forwards with it. I'd like us to get a deal, but if we don't, then
how do you level up if your GDP gets hit, which is going to happen, even if there is, how do you explain it to constituents that this is going to hurt us rather than help us, or do you not?
Yeah, I think the GDP is going to be hit regardless, as you say, because of what's happened with COVID. I remember...
But no deal would whack us too, though, right?
Well, it depends, Andrew. I think what people forget is that there's already quite a lot of agreements that have already been made on various issues. So you're not going to suddenly see planes being grounded or anything like that. So we are talking more about the trade element. It may be a bumpy ride, yes, not just for us, but for the EU as well. But certainly in my area, we're getting an extension to our hospital. We're having a university campus, which is being built in the centre of the town in Worksop. So there's a lot of these infrastructure things that are still going ahead. The PM said that we're not going to go back to the sort of the austerity of sort of 10 plus years ago that we saw. So we're still going to put that investment in, and people will see changes. But as you say, you are right that it is going to be a bumpy ride, and there will be some tough decisions ahead. And
to celebrate your 1 year anniversary, you won't be going out?
Yeah, I was 40 in the summer as well, so I didn't do much for that either. So no, I won't be going out. No, won't be mixing any households in restaurants or anything like that either. No.
And will you be celebrating Christmas with other households?
Well, my mother's probably going to come around. She lives on her own, but she's in our bubble. So we're going to try and avoid mixing other households because we don't need to. I know we've said to people we can do, and that's entirely their choice. But it's about letting people make their own choices, Andrew, and being responsible, I think. So I'm sure we can all have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, it's been a funny year for making our own choices. We haven't had any. Everything's closed. Shouldn't we have been left to make our own choices a little bit more, do you think? And to be trusted with our own common sense?
Yeah, I mean, the libertarian inside me is screaming at various points. And for me, it's all about individual choices. It's why I went into politics in the first place. And this pandemic is just so unprecedented what's happened to us. And we've had to go against a lot of our instincts. Look at the way we've propped businesses up with a lot of state aid. That's not something as a Conservative I would normally envisage doing, but I thought was the right thing to do. We look at other places in the world, they've had tougher lockdowns, Italy and Spain. I think we've had a lot more liberty in that sense than there. Then you could flip it over and look at somewhere like Sweden. I'm very passionate about Sweden. I lived there for a couple of years as well. And they're having problems at the moment, and they had less restrictions. So it's about getting the balance. But as we said, people are fed up. But the vaccines have arrived now, and we can start having a brighter future. Fingers crossed.
Brendan Clarke-Smith, thanks for your time this morning. Conservative MP for Bassett Law, 8:47.